everybody can do a good job of that. We have 30 students of the whole classroom. Because time is limited, so it's impossible for everybody to do by yourself. Okay, so we would love to, I don't know whether you know each other or not. Some of you don't know, lots of you don't know each other. I would love to say, spending about 2 weeks to think about that. Have 2 or 3 of you have a group. Then the 2 or 3 of you have a group which will be create a 15 to 20 minutes oral presentation with around 15-20 slides, and then you submit 2 to 3 pages of summary at the end of the semester as part of the grading. Now, if 3 of you there, I would suggest 1 of you prepare collecting material, 1 of you for the writing, another one for the presentation. The presentation only need 1 person to do, because otherwise it doesn't make much sense if we have everybody present 5 minutes. Okay, so I would love to encourage you to have that group. If you didn't come up with something, I can just assign for some of you. Next week, Thursday, will be the exam. I think everybody will be here, so I'll have a sheet ready. If you guys want to have a group ready, then let's just do that. Now, the topics, what we're going to do is that, already being listed here. There's some of the topics. So my major is food processing related to pathogen control, which is antimicrobials. That certainly can be the topic. And microorganism cause infectious disease, we already talked about so many, but there's still a lot left in the world. You could pick up something to do. Beneficial bacteria during the fermentation, let's say sausage, summer sausage, salami, the processing, the function of those lactic acid bacteria is a good topic. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about antibiotics, the function today. Then antibiotic resistant, we will be mentioning about that. And that could be a good topic for that. Another thing is that we were using traditional methods to testing bacteria in foods. But there also could be some of the rapid testing methods. Let's say using molecular methods, using chemical methods, that's also going to be a good topic. Another thing is that I don't know how much you know about the food safety regulation, like HACCP, like Good Agriculture Practices, like Food Safety Modernization Act. Dr. Kenny will be a guest speaker pretty much at the end of the semester, talk a little bit about that. But if you are interested about the food management system, that could be the topic. Another one is the last one, is the emerging pathogen based on the media. So for example, if you see someday there is outbreaks of Salmonella epidemis in the eggs, that could be a topic to talk about that. And COVID-19 could also be a topic to talk about related to the food safety, but not much report about that. But basically the vaccine development or something, that could be another example. So these are listed some of the examples of presentation topics you could choose. But you could come up with your own stuff. Let's say biological weapon, using virus, using bacteria, that could be another big topic you could talk about that. So we want you to have some creative thinking about the topic you want to do. You can make it fun during the presentation. You can, like I did, draw on the blackboard. You can use slides. You can have like an open stage talk show talk. That's fine. It's all up to you. So that's what we need in this classroom, is a little bit diversity from different backgrounds. Even you could come out with a lawsuit. If there is a food safety outbreaks happens with the companies, then how are you going to deal with the lawsuit with those things? If your major is law, I mean, some of you are like media major. You could talk about those things. So it's an open, very open, broad topic you could pick. But this is just, I give you some of the examples. The presentation body will have an introduction, objectives, material methods, results, discussion, and some implication. Now this is the sum of the suggested journal, which is in my major, and I read it a lot of times. You could pick from it. Okay, Journal for the Science, Journal for the Protection, for the Microbiology, International Journal for the Microbiology for the Control, Applied Environmental Microbiology, LWT, Meat Science, Poultry Science, Journal of Applied Poultry Research, Dairy Science, and Animal Science. If you are interested about certain paper, but you cannot get access to it, just send me an email, and I can get it to you. Some they need a membership to get the publication, some are not, is open access. I think WVU library has been purchased all the paper before 2017, but recent 5 years they may not have purchased the copyrights of everything. But some of the journal open access, let's say LWT, Poultry Science, those are open access journals, which means everybody open the computer, go to the website, you can find them. Journal Food Protection, that's need a membership, but I have it, I can get it to you. Journal Food Science, with a widely publisher, WVU library purchased that one. So most of them are acceptable to do. So that's kind of thing you could choose, pick up like 1 or 2 paper from them, and everybody work together to read it and then make the slides about that. You don't need to go too much detail about those data information, because that usually is for graduate students. For undergraduate students, you know the topics, you know the introduction, the brief results, discussion, and the implication. That should be good enough for that. So you don't need to worry about the detail, or why this x-axis is higher, that number is lower, why this is usually the PhD students need to care about all these very details, okay? So that's something I want to say. Also, these are the website you can come from, which is PubMed, Google Scholar, Science Director, and our university library system. These are the things you could pick from them. I gave you some of the idea for the presentation. Okay, what means a good presentation? You can make a slides. The slides need to be pretty much full of the contents. Don't leave lots of the spaces. Let's say you have only 2 words in, then the whole space is empty. That's not looking good. And do not prepare too many words in there, and not too many slides. Don't prepare like 50 slides, and you read over through from beginning to the end. It's very boring. I mean, I don't like to use slides to teach, but lots of people are using. That's certainly fine, but not reading from the first words to the last words. Okay, speak loudly, and the audience can hear clearly, have eye contacts. Now, you need to explain some of the concepts, terminology, data analysis. I would say not really clearly, briefly, concisely, but people at least can understand it. This is very important for this class, is that because we have all of you come from different college around the campus, have a different background. So make sure your talk, people not in the science major is understanding. That's very important. Because this is also something you need to pay much attention in the future when you go some of the job talk. You're talking about something not only the people in this area know, people without this area still understanding. So we always say a good presentation is about 30% of the material. Even your mom or your dad will understand it. I'm not saying your mom and dad do not have a good education. I'm just saying, randomly say, any people not in this area will understand it. Okay, so that's something we need to practice. We may have some questions from the audience, so you need to answer the question. Now, don't speak over time, and at least practice by yourself a little bit. Now, you can have a notes here, but I don't want you to do like this. All the slides 1, all the slides 2, like that. If you completely reading from that, that's not very, which means you didn't prepare very well. Okay, so you have some notes, that's okay. Appropriate amount of eye contact is important. Okay, not like just like this and reading from the beginning to the end. So these are the, I think it's a very good experiences for you to practice. And this is what I put some of the grading system, what we were using to to do. Certainly, I want everybody to participate. Okay, when you do this grading, because you are present, other people also present. You can learn from them if they did a good job. If they didn't do a good job, you could learn why they not do a good job. Okay, so I will put these later. This will come out like pretty much late, middle of the April or early of the April we'll do that. Okay, so March we still have lots of things to talk about. So this is something I want to mention. Very important, just to remind you, I had all these material for after class reading. This is coming from a different textbook, which is I concluded in there. So please at least, like you reading a magazine, at least read through it. And be prepared for some of the questions where you're going to find it. Because we have lots of case study in the exam too. Something like this. Okay, something like that. Then you need to know where you're going to find the answer. That's important. You don't have to memorize all of that. But at least, for example, Staphylococcus. This is the information for Staphylococcus. And this is the second paragraph, which is talk about honeymoon bacteria, Staphylococcus saprophyticus. You at least know when it's time to Staphylococcus saprophyticus, that's the section you should look for. Okay? That's important. Just show you some example. This is the second example, which is we talk about the corona bacteria. Klebsiella, okay, Haemophilus, Borrelia. And this is the last one. I think it's a sexual transmitted disease. Okay, this is Clostridium. So we talk about Clostridium difficile, and Clostridium botulism, tetanus, perfringens, Borrelia burgdorferi, all these, it's a summarized for you. Lots of them is actually in my class notes, but you can read through it. I think it's organized well. I mean, you could be using for answering the questions. Okay. And this we will talk later. About 20 minutes later, we're going to talk about these questions. This is give you a practice. What are these questions you should answer? Okay, so that's like we do all together in the classroom. This is actually from my another classes, but we have a different level. Another class is a closed book, but this is open book, so it's a different. Okay, now let's finish talk about these. Remember, we talk about the antibiotics, but we haven't mentioned is the mechanism. So we want to talk about that. First question we already answered. The bacteria have cell wall, have protein, have nucleic acids, have their metabolic pathway, have their cell membrane integrated system. In other words, antibiotics are attacking these targets. So the first question, which methods is relatively safe? I use quotation mark, relatively safe. Of course, you know, as long as it's a drug. We have a joke, we say 70% is for treatments, 30% is a toxin. So nobody likes to, unless you're drug addictive, nobody likes to take a medicine. Because 30% is toxic. And your liver has to combat with that one. So I will say relatively safe. Which one? Is cell wall. Which means, if you are attacking cell wall, then we say that antibiotics relatively is safe. The reason is, bacteria has a cell wall. Our human being, our animal do not have cell wall. So the target is obvious for the bacteria. So we want to talk about that. This is a very interesting and a very important and a very concise slide to talk about the mechanism of inhibition cell wall synthesis from 3 different types of the antibiotics. So we want to introduce something to you. The beginning is penicillin. So first of all, what is the structure of penicillin? The structure of the penicillin is NH. So here we have CH, C, It's not required to know, okay? I have another class which is required. That's why I didn't remember today. So other classes, I usually remember that. And you go here, you have, here goes CH, COOH. This is a typical structure for penicillin. And what we really care about is the center one. This called beta-lactam ring. This is a major functional structure for penicillin. So let's talk about something. We talk about the cell wall structure briefly when we talk about the ram stem, but they didn't go really much detail, so we can refresh it what it looks like. The cell wall structure, it is composed by, we say, modified sugar. Okay, what are the modified sugar? There is two different types of the modified sugar. NAG and NAM. In this class, we just introduce you acronym. In my other class, we talk about more detail. NAG, N-acetylglucosamine, NAM, and acetylmuramic acids. So they connected with each other. One by one, do the alternative. Now, you're going to have these things connected. What are these? This is amino acids. And this is also amino acids. So they connected like that. But how about the here? This is we call glyco bonds. Okay, I can use a different color. So what's a beta-actin ring going to do? They're going to attack you here. That's what the beta-lactam ring going to do it. They are attacking the peptidoglycan bridge bonds during bacteria synthesis. And we know that bacteria, when they have a cell wall, they must do a synthesis. So beta-lactam ring attacking those areas. Okay, now how they find it? Once they have a penicillin generated, they are trying to see the mechanism, how they're going to kill the bacteria. So they started to see the structure of a bacteria cell wall. And they find that those bonds is actually connected after the function of some of the enzymes. And those enzymes very ironically said penicillin binding proteins. This terminology is very ironic. Why they come out with these ironic words? Because that's proteins, when they do the research for penicillin, they find it. That's why they say penicillin binding proteins. Now, we know that in the history, talk about the penicillin, there is a development for that. Long time ago, we using penicillin G. I don't know if you have these experiences. I'm a little older than you, maybe 20 years older than you. When I was young, penicillin can only do muscle injection. You have it inject of your butt. And of course, you have to do skin allergic testing first. Okay? Why? Because penicillin G is very sensitive to stomach acids and other enzymes. They will hydrolyze it. So only muscle injection only all the time. Because the kids don't like it. Wow, you go hospital, it's crying all the whole way. It's a little bit hurt. Then they develop penicillin V. That's a good thing. They are resistant to stomach acids. So what this means, this can be orally take, which means you can take a pill. But what's the disadvantage? Penicillin G and penicillin V are narrow spectrum, which means they basically only anti-gram positive bacteria. So it's not going to be widely used. Then they have to develop something. So they develop using chemical methods, we call it a chemical synthesis, amoxicillin. So right now, if you go to see a doctor, the doctor gonna give you antibiotics pills. Basically, you see it's amoxicillin. Even the vet person will give you that. You have a dog who have a diarrhea, you go to see a doctor. If it's bacteria caused diarrhea, give you amoxicillin. Then what happened? Antibiotic resistance happened. Okay, this is a huge topic. You could talk about the whole semester. A very simple, easy story for bacteria to attacking, to combat or to resist penicillin is you're going to break down this ring. So they generate an enzyme which is called penicillinase. That's an enzyme. Can crack it down beta-lactam ring. So this is the easiest way for bacteria to become antibiotic resistant. They created the enzyme by themselves. So then, we need to fast our science speed. We need to develop a new antibiotics, is that right? What it comes out? Methicillin. This comes out. Methicillin, when they come out in 1970s, 1980s, it's a magic stuff. Because in a certain period of time, it's a super antibiotics curing all kinds of bacteria. Therefore, hospitals use that a lot. Then we had a problem. What is that? MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. We mentioned about that. Okay, that's a development of the penicillin. Pretty magic, but unfortunately, this started to become a problem because of antibiotics. Okay, then what we should do? Okay, let's say I'm using penicillin. I'm attacking the peptidoglycan bridge bonds. Failed. It's not successful. Then what I'm going to do? Remember, you have amino acids right here. Is that right? Amino acids will be composed by different chain. So, if you go draw right here, this is amino acids right here. This is not really only one amino acids. It could be glycine, glutamine, asparagine, a long chain. I'm not successful right here. This guy is not successful. How we do it? I'm going to attack these amino acids. I don't let the amino acids have a long chain. Maybe we can come back to solve the problem of antibiotics. This comes out with vancomycin. And we mentioned about this briefly. Do you remember which disease is caused by hospitally intensively using antibiotics? Candide, remember? Clostridium difficile. What is the first example for Clostridium difficile? Is a 70-year-old grandma who used penicillin too much in the hospital, about a week, have a water bloody diarrhea. And I said there is one ironic method to do is using another antibiotics. You can use vancomycin. Because vancomycin, instead of attacking peptidoglycan bridge bonds, it's attacking the amino acid bonds, or we say amino acid chains. However, if people are using too much, it's going to still become resistant. Because bacteria is smart, and you never will be catching up with the speed, with the development, with the evolution of the bacteria. This is something people have the rumor says, some pathogen like COVID-19 will become out every 10, 15 years. It's not really threatening, it could be, because you are using treatments. On the other hand, they are developing. Okay, so they're going to come out. So what they do? Let's say I have these structure. Okay, I'm just going to draw a couple. Like this. I have these, comes out. This is peptidoglycan. Okay, long and long. Remember this guy here? Fluid mosaic model. And we have this tunnel here. What is the name of this tunnel? Protein. Transmembrane protein. These transmembrane protein, like a channel for bacteria to get some nutrition or the material from the outside of the cell membrane, go to the cell wall system to synthesize these things. So, more or less, you need to have something go inside to help these things to generate. Penicillin attacking the glycobonds. Vancomycin attacking amino acid count. If both doesn't work, what are we going to do? I don't give you precursor material, which means it doesn't matter how inside it's going to happen. I don't give you meal. I'll let you starvation. That's a function of basic tracing. They will block the precursor material for synthesizing bacteria cell wall. However, bacteria have some other methods to do. You block it, they couldn't use any of the resources inside to do it. But this is kind of the way to stop or temporary. So, basic tracing basically is bacteria static impacts, which means basically it's only inhibit bacterial growth, not really to kill bacteria. But vacuum-Elsing and the penicillin, because it's cracking down the cell wall structure, so there actually is a sidal effects. So we call it a bactericidal effects, which means they are killing bacteria. So this is very interesting. These are 3 examples of the antibiotics. Do you remember what's the components of bacitracin? This is A disc, is that right? The components of A disc is bacitracin. That's to differentiate Streptococcus pyogenes and Streptococcus agalactiae, which is GAS and GBS. We talked about in our previous lectures. So this is kind of very interesting about all these 3 things. When we finish talk about here, do you have a feeling when is the best moment to use antibiotics? Let's say penicillin or vancomycin. Because they are attacking bacterial cell wall. The cell wall synthesis. So when is the best time? The best time is bacteria synthesizing their cell wall. What this means, when you have the growth curve, better attacking in the log phase. Because in the log phase, the bacteria is growing dramatically, they are synthesizing dramatically, it's the best time to do it. Once you see these slides, you will be very good to understanding. Even antibiotics has been developing so many years, almost a century. Not a century, 70, 80 years. Their best treatment is for gram-positive bacteria. Because gram-positive bacteria have a heavy peptidoglycan. For gram-negative bacteria, not much. This is the reason I mentioned earlier. You have E. coli over 5-7H7. You eat undercooked beef steaks, you have a nausea, diarrhea. If I give you a couple of pills of penicillin, then you recover, then it won't be a public risk. That's the reason. So when you see the mechanism behind it, you're going to be understanding very well. So antibiotics, in other words, is not so magic it can do everything. Okay, so that's why lots of the countries actually, when they do the treatment, they made a mistake. I mean, in the United States, they control it very well. Unless your tested is a bacteria-caused disease, you use antibiotics. If it's only virus, you cannot use it. But in some countries, you had like a coughing, fever, prescription antibiotics. That's why it's become a big issue for the resistant. And I want to tell you one thing, antibiotic resistance is widely existent, how heavy it is. We did a very small research. You only need to get a pound of water in the cheat lake or the environmental sample surrounding the WVU Ruby Hospital. Then you just very simple to spread the protein onto the bacterial agar, put the dipsticks of 5 different antibiotics, I'm guaranteed half of them will be resistant. So that's severely existing in our real life. And we will know if this happens, most of the antibiotics will generate antibiotic resistance. Okay? Now, next question. If the antibiotics attacking bacterial cell wall generate resistance, what are we going to do? We move to next stage. We're going to do attacking protein synthesis. That means you're going to attack the cell membrane system. Unfortunately, human being, animals has cell membrane, has protein. So, This slide listed all these antibiotics, more or less has side effects. Tetracycline, what they will cause? Tetracycline will cause a yellow teeth, discoloration of the teeth. Streptogramine will generate what? Hearing loss. Chloromophenicol. This is the one we first used this long time ago in 1950s. This is a chlorophenicol is the first broad spectrum antibiotics. So we think it's a magic. It's cure everything. However, this have a severe decrease of the bone marrow system of the immune system of the human being. So the side effects is strong. So what we do later on is only a life-threatening situation. You're going to use that. Chlorophenicol is almost out of the shelf right now. Okay, the others, they all more or less have some of the have very strong side effects. So you know the ribosome is 70S. S means Vandenberg subunits. There are two subunits. A whole unit is 70S, molecular weight. There are two subunits, which is 30S and 50S. They could tackle each of the targets. Okay, so that's inhibition of protein synthesis. Next, inhibition of nucleic acids. We will talk about the DNA replication, transcription, translation briefly in one or two classes. I mean, lots of you like molecular stuff. So, once we talk about the mechanism, go to DNA. Everybody think it's an advanced technology. If you have antibiotics can attack in DNA, it's going to be magic. However, I tell you, if anything, the target is DNA, which is nucleic acid synthesis, it's the least useful. Why? Because bacteria could generate lots of mutations. What you learned in your biology class about the DNA replication, transcription, translation is a standards. That's called central dogma. It's a standards. Every single bacteria in different environments, they have a different bypass. This is something like Highway 79 is closed. You could go Highway 14, go to small road. Is that right? I travel from Pittsburgh to here a couple times a week. If Highway 79 is closed, we have to go those inside of small road. That's the same for bacteria. There are lots of bypass they can survive. Now, what's the function of these things for? Especially rifampicin, we call it a RIF. For example, RIF resistant, E. coli, 0157H7. Why we do these things? This is only for laboratory. So let's say I have a beef products. Okay, I want to see how effective lactic acid bacteria are going to kill it. So I'm going to inoculate E. coli 0157H7 there. But how do we know the bacteria you added there is you inoculated? Is not originally existing on the beef surface. So what I do, I label them. Become RIF resistant, rifampicin resistant. What I do, I grow E. coli in a solution has 50 ppm rifampicin. I grow them 35 degrees Celsius 24 hours. And I streak plating onto the agar, which is a TSA with 50 ppm RIF. And I subculture a couple of times. Let the RIF resistant be memorized for the bacterial cell. But the tricky thing is that once you make these laboratory, which is rifampicin resistant E. coli, every time when you grow E. coli, you need to have rifampicin there. Otherwise, they will lose this resistant function. The reason is This resistance is only for chromosome, is not for plasmid. Okay, which means it's only for general purpose, not for targets. It will not change the baseline. So, if you see the bacterial inhibition cell nucleic acid synthesis, it will be only effective for laboratories. Commercially, you use it, it's not going to be effectively from medical area. Okay? Inhibition of metabolic pathway. This is we mentioned a couple of times in the biochemistry class. We need folic acids to survive the bacteria. And there is a precursor material called beta-aminobenzoic acids. And they are going to be working with the substrates that generate these products. And we have a sulfur drug. Sulfur laminate is a structure, and PABA is very similar. So instead of PABA working with the substrate, sulfur laminates will be attacking the substrate. So therefore, they're going to block the biosynthesis, which means they will be stopped metabolic pathway. If they cannot have folic acids, bacteria will be dying. However, you know bacteria have a different bypass metabolic pathway. You learn your biochemistry class, lots of the bypass, lots of the alternative metabolic pathway. We call it a modified citric acid cycle, modified glycolysis, and a reversible electron transport chain. There are so many things. So, if the antibiotics is inhibition metabolic pathway, it will be only effective for inhibitor bacteria, which means it's only static, not really bactericidal. Okay, lastly, inhibition of cell membrane integrity causes leakage of cellular contents, alters membrane permeability. Polymyxin, do you know what is this ingredient? You can get from the countertop of CVS. This is ornament. If you have a skin rash, the doctor will say have some ornament. If the antibiotics, the targeting is inhibit the cell membrane integrity, then basically it's for using only for skin surfaces. Not really, you can orally take it. Nobody going to eat all ornament. Okay, only for skin surface use. This is a slide, it's actually pretty nice. It's concluding most of the commonly used antibiotics, they are targets for each functional group of a bacterial cell. This, you should keep these slides and you should mark it, because this is going to be useful for some of the questions in the exam. Okay? So, we finished talking about here, then let's go over some of the practice questions. So we'll see some of the questions that I'm going to test you, okay? First of all, our exam question, exam 2, certainly open book. So the question will be lots of the case study. And some of you, I have a feedback from the students tell me every year, we like those questions, Dr. Shen, because it looks like we are doctor or nurse in the classroom. Well, in this class, if you didn't do good, you can, final exam, you can redo it, okay? Unless you make sure until you're happy. So, use these as a practice. It's a very good experiences for you. At the beginning, we will list all these bacteria names. You don't have to memorize them. Then we give you a story, and you're gonna pick which one is which. So let's look at these questions all together. Okay, this is a long story. So John, English instructor, received a call from adult daycare. His 74-year-old mother was staying. She experienced a chest pain, chill, had a fever. When he arrived at the daycare, she seemed to be a short of breath and cough. She had the morning, the worsened become productive, coughing. Okay, so what we know, this is an older woman is productively coughing. The local hospital prepare a sputum sample, grow blood agar, chocolate agar, producing alpha hemolytic. The gram stain reveals it is gram-positive diprococcal. Catalyst test negative. Optican susceptible test, and it's sensitive to it. So which bacteria it is? Possibly. I know it's hard for you. It's Streptococcus pneumoniae. Why? Gram-positive diprococcal. So how you study? Now you're not a major microbiology student. Well, how you study? When you read this story, go back to see after class reading what I just said. Alpha hemolytic streptococcal. Can you see it right there? Go ahead to see Streptococcus pneumoniae, what it looks like. Okay? And the Streptococcus pneumoniae is right on the top somewhere. Okay, then you go back to read this paragraph. You should be finding the answer. That's what's a target for that question. Okay, so let's give you an example. Let's look at the second question. Second question. A mother brought her 4-year-old boy to regional hospital. Okay, it's a boy. Have a fever, apparently sleepy, photophobia and headache. What it tells you? Possibly meningitis, is that right? For young kids, possibly. Then what we find? It is only grow chocolate agar. Need XV factor. Which one in the classroom we talk about this? Hemophilus influenza. And then you go back to see your slides. We have a very clear picture for that, for Hemophilus influenza. This is a very good assumption. You are a doctor. The nurse gave you the sample. You read the paper, and you find it's a pathogen, Hemophilus influenza. Okay, the next one. 27-year-old female officer had a fever, developed a rash, and experienced a sudden drop in the blood pressure. He will, during the period of time, is using a new contractive sponge that has not been removed since previous evening. What this tells you, the vaginal tract is really, really dry, and one pathogen will dominate and other will be killed. And there is a horrible tampons using in 1970s. What is that? Staphylococcus aureus. And let's say we have that during our after-class reading. Staphylococcus aureus. Right here, Staphylococcus. We mentioned about right here, the paragraph. This tells you how to do that question. Okay? So this is something we want to say. Okay, next one. Urinary tract infection. Catalyst test negative. Rebecca Langsfield group D. What is group A? Streptococcus pyogenes. What is group B? Streptococcus agalactia. What is group D? Enterococcus facilis. Okay, so group D, Enterococcus facilis. You're going to go on the top. That's group D, Enterococcus facilis. Originally, it is gram-positive bacteria belonging to Streptococcus. Later on, it comes out separate. Okay, next one. This is I said about the joke. 22-year-old sexual activity female have dysuria, frequently urination. The technician spun out her urine for microscope observation and found a gram-positive cocktail in grape-like cluster. And there was catalyst test positive and resistant to novel biopsy. Remember the joke? How the nurse will know the lady has been not in the home for a couple of days? Because that's the only Staphylococcus aureus, resistant to novel biopsy. So what's that? That's honeymoon bacteria, Staphylococcus saprophyticus. Okay? And where are the information in the after class reading? Again, you can find right here on the top. This is the information right there. Can you see it? That's the information. Okay, let's go ahead to see the other questions. Okay, this one. 29-year-old female pregnant. Okay, there is a newborn baby. Refused to breastfeeding, have a fever. The culture of the cerebrospinal fluid is gram-positive, catalyst test negative, beta-hemolytic, and resistant to bacitracin. We only talk about the two bacteria resistant, only one bacteria resistant to bacitracin. And one of them is susceptible. That's both a streptococcus. Streptococcus pyogenes is susceptible, and the streptococcus agalactia is resistant. So certainly, what is that? It's GBS. And this is a very typical case study, which tells you this mom maybe failed to do 35-37-week screening test of group B streptococcus. That's why the newborn baby has ammonian or even meningitis symptoms. That's a very typical story. Okay, next one. These questions you shouldn't do it anymore. Okay, maybe it's a little bit discrimination for immigrants, to be honest. The Honduran mother have a 5-year-old boy across U.S. for foreign trade. Okay, what this means? It's immigrants go to the United States in his own country did not have the vaccination history. Okay, that is a background story, but we more pay attention to the black words there. There is a neck swelling, a blackish gray membrane exodus. The pathogen is gram-positive, club-shaped arrangement on blood agar with telluride. You should know, this is the first pathogen we talk in the class. What is that? Corynebacterial diphtheria. Is that right? That's the first pathogen we talk about. Next one is easy. MRSA. Which one? Staphylococcus aureus. That's what we call it. We just talked about that. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Okay. All the others, I'll tell you. I'll put the answer on the eCampus. Then you can just study. When I was talking, I noticed that some of you are not reacting too much. So you go back to read those 3 sheets. We're going to do more practice on Tuesday. Is that okay? We are going to do several more, at least 5 to 7. We haven't talked about cross-training yet. So we have another sheet we're going to put onto the eCampus. And over the weekend, on Tuesday, we are talking about, we're going to talk about the biochemistry on Tuesday, but our left 15 minutes, let's talk about other case study. Then you have overall impression, what type of a question. And all these are good material, you can print it out. Okay? So think about in the hospital, Cora is a nurse, gave you a sample, and then you're going to ask to Rebecca, okay, what is the pathogen? So you're going to look at all the documents you have, then you find the pathogen it is. Okay, so I need because all of you have a different background. We're going to do more practice on Tuesday. Is that okay? At least 5 to 10 questions, and you can be ready for Thursday for the exam. Otherwise, you're going to stuck there for like 3 hours. I'm serious. I don't need to go home. So, just want to let you know, okay? Okay, so next